All right, everybody. So here we are. You know how I feel about being short-winded. It's tough for me, but it's always fun to have a different guest on and talk about their channel, get to know them a little bit, introduce them to you if you don't already know them, and then see if I can keep my mouth shut and get my 20 questions answered in that short period of time, or short for me, not for most. So this week's guest, we've got Josh from Rated Rookie. Now, Josh, welcome.
Great to see you. Appreciate you having me
Yeah,
on.
good to see. Yeah, of course. Now, we met briefly at the YouTube get together in Cleveland, and we talked for like 3 minutes, and that was like pretty much all we've really talked. So, I've watched your channel for a while. I enjoy your channel. I only have people on where I would actually encourage them to, subscribe to the channel. And my only complaint to you is that you don't make enough videos.
Well, I appreciate that, man. You're the goal we can all seek to hit.
Or
You're
not, or not.
yeah, it's
um,
funny that I feel like I know you better than I actually do because yeah, we barely spoke at that event, but I've seen a ton of your videos and feel like I know you decently.
well, and we've interacted through comments. You've
Right.
commented on my channel. I'm sure I've commented on yours. We've commented on other people's in common. So it's like I see your logo, I see, your name, and but I think when I met you in Cleveland, because a lot of your videos, you're showing cards. So it's not as much FaceTime. And I was like, I know this guy. And then you were like, yeah, Josh. And I'm like, and you're like, Rated Rookie. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, we've interacted a lot. So it's just funny how that works.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was kind of a decision I made a while ago. Is to like really focus on the cards. So I don't think I've actually ever shown my face on my videos, but I've been on a couple of these type things, and
Yeah, I've seen you on some live streams. Like, haven't you been on with like Silver Jackify maybe,
yeah,
or one of those? Yeah. So I've
yeah.
seen you.
We're trying to
Yeah.
figure out a new angle. We'll probably be bringing back something on Mike Baseball Collectors channel soon too.
Awesome. I remember him mentioning something about having a few of you guys on something semi-regular, so that will be cool. Now, I have a few questions that I want to ask to you, and not just because I want other people to get to know you a little bit, but because they're things that I'm curious about. I watched your video of your pickups from Cleveland, and you got some really, really good stuff. If you've not seen the post national pickup video for Josh, check that out. And then your year in review and your pickups over the year and your top 50 cards and all that stuff. Like the thing, well, I'll get into that. And see, I'm already going off topic. I have a couple of questions for you about that stuff. But first, I wanted to do a quick shout out. Your subscriber number is really close to 2,000. So we can see here you are like less than 20 from 2,000. So we need to show the Midlife Impact and Midlife Nation go out and subscribe to Rated Rookie, put them over the hump. That's a big accomplishment. There are not a lot. There are a fair amount of channels that have gotten to 1,000, but getting to the 2,000 threshold is much more difficult.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it'd be a nice milestone to hit. It's funny in the YouTube community, sports card community. That's pretty decent if you're hanging with Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
That probably isn't so great. So it's all relative, but in our group, I think it's a
Yeah, I mean, it is all relative, and if we were to do a home improvement channel, you'd hit 2,000 subs in a month. It just kind of depends on what your genre is. All right, so a couple things for you. First, I have you have one oh man, see, it's I'll cut off on the screen here, but you have one of the most diverse collections that I've seen on YouTube. You have vintage cards, you have modern cards, a lot of each. You've got baseball, basketball, football. You've even got some hockey stuff. And I get a lot of people that talk about you don't do enough football, you don't do enough basketball, and then there's other people that do none. You do kind of all of it. So my question for you, my first question is kind of how do you decide what's next when you collect as many different things as you do? How do you go, "Oh, I think the next card I'm going to get is going to be the Dr. J rookie," when your scope of narrowness is like so wide?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I mean, overall, I guess the thing that runs through all these cards is trying to be, focus on iconic cards. And I do have a list, so that helps guide things. But ultimately, I mean, I guess I just really like cards. I like vintage. I like modern. I like different sports. Huge sports fan, and I enjoy the the journey. So there, you just kind of have to weigh at different opportunities. I guess because I have pretty diverse interests, that kind of opens up opportunities. As one market might bubble up a little bit, then I can go and focus on other things. And I'm always trying to avoid the next rabbit hole. The Perez Steel autos, recently got into those. So there's just too many temptations when it comes to cards.
Yeah, and when you were showing the stuff from the national, and then you were kind of talking about some of the stuff you didn't get, and I don't want to give away too much because I want people to go watch. But you were like, "Yeah, I was kind of looking for this, but I didn't end up with that. But then I got this," and I'm like, "What? That's a big card." So yeah, that's one of the hard things I find is focusing. But so let me just ask as a quick follow up: how many cards are on that list?
I usually have like 5 to 10 on that list. And every year I do like a top 100, which I know is not unique. A bunch of people do these top hundreds, but that helps me kind of like hone things in. If something's outside the top 100, is it really meaningful to me? So, yeah, I mean, on my channel, I like doing the top 100. I like doing countdowns, mail days. I even do some like player PCs, including your buddy Mike Piazza.
I was wondering if that was going to come up. So I know you're a big Piazza guy. You're a Dodger fan. You're a big Piazza guy.
Yeah.
Now let me first say this: I bag a lot on Piazza because I kind of have a running thing with Mookie Chilson, my bud.
Okay.
So I bag on him more than I normally would because of that. He also, every time I send something to Mookie, like I sent him a few cards the other day, I always slip in a Clemens card just to kind of get under his skin. But I also noticed you actually in one of the videos I was watching of you recently, you had a Clemens card in there. So you don't feel the animosity of those two guys toward each other like some of us do, I guess.
Yeah, not the same level of hate. I would love to get a card of Clemens throwing the bat at Piazza. That would be a nice moment to capture.
Well, I don't know if you knew this or if you've seen it, but somebody sent me a card that was from it was a piece of a game used base from the game with the bat incident. So it's that base piece from that game and on the card. I should have dug it out. It's got Clemens on it and it's got Piazza on it and it's got the base relic. So that's pretty cool.
Uh,
All right, let's keep going here. Next question I've got. You were at the 2024 National and you picked up some really big cards. Now, when you go to a show like that, because I know you got a bunch of buddies that don't live nearby, you live in an area away from, a lot of the country, sort of like I do. And so when you go to a show, it's one of your opportunities to see some of these friends. But it's also, you also live in an area where there's not like these huge shows like quarterly or every other month and stuff. So going to big shows is probably a little harder to do than it is for some people in the country. So how do you kind of approach a show, and what's your strategy to kind of go into this massive show but also have these buddies that you're looking forward to spending time with? Like what's your thought process with that?
yeah, I mean, it's trying to find a balance, right? So generally, that first day, try to hold off buying too much anyway. So that's a great time to catch up with people. You know, seeing friends and even walking the tables with them can be great for catching up. Thankfully, I was able to go to the national for a few days, which afforded me the opportunity to really hang out with some friends. The YouTube event was awesome, and there are different pockets of friend groups too. There's kind of like the vintage crew. There's more '90s crew, and so coming out from the West Coast, you definitely have to like, set up time to see people either, at the show, afterwards, dinners, different events. So, I've been doing this for about 7 years, and thankfully kind of have made some really good friends. I found that our community is just like a really good group of guys. I
It,
don't know if
it
that's what
really
you,
is.
yeah.
And I've heard you talk about, do you go to the Dallas show fairly regularly? It sounds like you've picked up a fair amount of cards there.
Yeah, I went out there. Mike let me crash at his place, so that was awesome. This weekend actually, I'm not sure when this is going to run. There's the Burbank show in Anaheim, so I'm going to be able to go to that for a day, and yeah, just try to make the national an event every year, and because of that, you kind of save up some budget, but you also try to make sure you get to see all your friends. And unfortunately, like you said, we barely got to even chat at the event, so you always run out of time, and
Yeah.
there's always people you want to see next year.
Yeah, and there's like you said about the circles, there's the overlapping. Like this is like your core group, and then this is like another group where you want to spend some time, and then some you want to say hi to. But I mean, there were a couple of people that I was like adamant I was gonna see and talk to, like Silver Jackify. Like I love his channel. Like I watch his channel all the time. I love his enthusiasm, and I didn't even see him at the YouTube event. I mean, it's not that big of a room, and I didn't even see him. I was gonna go introduce myself and say hello, and it didn't happen. So it's just, it's just part of the, and even Mike Moynihan, like I've been on with Mike a few times. He's been on with me, and I talked to him for at the whole show, like 3 minutes. I talked to him. He introduced me to his brother, and it just is what it is, I guess. But it's tough. Now, what about the card part of it? Do you go in with that list of the 5 to 10 cards, and then you kind of pinpoint one or two of them that you're really going to go for, or do you just kind of go, well, I got a bunch of cards, and we'll see what falls in front of me?
Yeah, I mean, I have like a directional idea, and I try to pick up like one nice Piazza a year, maybe one nice Jordan a year. So don't really always know, but sometimes it's good to kind of take a look at the card, think about it for a minute, make sure that's really the one you want. And I try not to buy too much on that first day, but it's this balance, right? Because sometimes you pass up a card and then you go back to that table and it's gone. So it's always tough to figure out, when the time's right to strike. And if it's a really rare card, sometimes you just have to do it.
I have to throw this out there because it's just popped into my head, and it's not really on topic, but that's just part of me. You were talking about Piazza again. Do you know who owns the piece of the bat from that incident?
No, I
There's a
don't.
well-known person who owns that.
Really? No, I don't know. Who is it?
Keith Oberman.
No kidding. He has a good collection, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I have an
fun
inside
fact.
source that gave me that information. I don't know if that's super, not that it's a secret, but I don't know if that's a widely known thing. Anyway. All
Yeah,
right,
you should
next
try that one
question.
day.
But yeah. All right, your pickups videos and your year review videos to me are some of like you just can't miss those. Those are videos that everybody should see. If you are not a subscriber, once you subscribe to Josh, first thing you should do is go look at his year in review videos and see what he picked up each year, because it's, and then you did one of the ones that blew my mind. It was like your top 50 cards, or your, I think they were like the most iconic cards, 50 iconic cards or something. I was just like, you got that too. And you did it chronologically. And I was just like, a lot of envy there. But how would you describe your channel? So somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'm looking for new channels. Like, how would you describe your channel to somebody who's not seen it?
I mean, I guess I love, like you said, curating iconic cards, showing my collecting journey. So it's a mixture of kind of countdowns, PSA reveals, mail days. Like I said, the player PCs like Piazza and Jordan. I got into this basically 7 years ago because I found that sports cards were just like a nice way to like de-stress from work. So for me, it's kind of meditative. It's nice to get away from the work craziness, and the hobby is just like fun place for me. back then, 7 years ago, there wasn't a ton of production value. This was long before like investor channels and everything. It was like, I love Nolan Alico three's channel, Nate Tops 85 401, just some OGs like Mike O. So those were like the original group of guys that I started watching, and slowly but surely, there's been better and better stuff coming out every year, and I really got to tip my hat to your channel. Just like the stuff you're putting out on a weekly basis is incredible.
Well, that's kind of you. I work hard on it, but people keep saying, "How do you have time for it?" And I'm like, "Well, this is my hobby time. Like this
Right.
is like this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come home from work and we're gonna hang out for a half hour and talk cards. Like that's not work. Like that's just fun. I just do this with you, and then we hit the record button along the way. So, but yeah, it's a blast for sure. All right, so now we're at the moment of truth for me.
Yes.
I am 2 for 6. My batting average has plummeted recently. Um,
333.
333, which is
Like Tony
still,
Gwynn. Yeah, that's Tony Gwynn's a great
it's
hitter.
yeah, it's an all-star, maybe even a Hall of Famer if
Yeah.
it's over a career. Um, I've been set up from a few of my friends, with some of their multifaceted 8-part questions, but
Okay.
I
I'll try
get
to
it.
avoid the Mookie 8-part question today.
Yeah, Mookie is the friend who I'm not sure if he was rooting for me or not, but that's okay. I still love the guy. So what we'll do is we'll put 5 minutes on the clock. You've got 20 questions. Um, I want to throw this out there to everybody. I really genuinely do want to succeed. Like I feel a sense of accomplishment when I'm able to answer all 20. And it's not like a shtick. It's like I'm competitive and I really want to do this. So just know that when I start to hit a rabbit trail or a rabbit hole and I start to hit this little patch where I'm going off, I'm not trying to do that. It is taking everything in me to prevent that. Um, so are you ready with your 20 questions?
Let's do it, man.
All right. So
Yeah.
I am going to put 5 minutes on the clock and we're going to see how this goes. And let's go ahead and begin.
Oh. All right. So speaking of rabbit holes, what's a sports card rabbit hole that you've considered entering?
Considered? 90s. So many guys are trying to get me to do 90s. I'm fighting it. And so far I've fought well.
Should do it. Where do you think the National should be hosted after Chicago?
I really think Denver because it's central. I think it's easy. Look at me. Here I go. Denver.
If you were in a talent show, what would be your talent?
Oh man, I'm not really good at anything performing. I'm gonna say I'd come up with some stand-up comedian.
What's your favorite type of YouTube content? So like mail days, PSA reveals, lists, box breaks, all that stuff.
I like all that stuff, but I really like watching negotiations at shows.
Who made your intro music?
It was a preloaded song in my iPhone that I just used, and apparently it doesn't get flagged. So I have no idea.
It's good. All right, be honest. Do you mostly collect Roger Peckinpah because it's just fun to say his name?
No, no, it's because he's a Yankee captain.
All right, what line do you say most often to your class?
Does that make sense?
What's your greatest sports achievement?
Shooting one under par for 18 holes.
That's really good. What card do you regret not buying?
Ugh. Probably. This is so random. I wish I had already bought an Al Kaline rookie.
Who is the greatest baseball player you ever watched play?
In person,
Yes.
Barry Bonds.
Who is the best hitting catcher you ever watched play?
Buster Posey?
Mike Piazza is the right answer. Okay. Um, what was the last concert you attended?
Oh, it's been a while. I went to the Dixie Chicks with my wife,
Cy Young or Walter Johnson?
Walter Johnson.
What was your favorite job before you became a teacher?
My favorite, most enjoyable job I've ever had was actually being a server at Red Lobster after high school. And I even worked at a golf course in the cart barn. But being a server at Red Lobster was a lot of fun.
Nice. Have you ever been starstruck by meeting a YouTuber?
Yes, too. Chris Sewell and Ryan Nolan.
Nice. What's the best gift you ever received?
Um, there's so many directions I could go with this. Um, I'm gonna go with my gut. Salvation,
What's a trip that left a lasting memory on you?
Strongsville.
What's the best card you ever pulled from a pack?
Uh, Nothing good ever. Uh, I bought a random pack of hockey cards, and I hit the case hit, which was some mail-in thing that was worth like $30. Honestly, it's sad.
Good lesson. As a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A mailman, because mailmen get to be outside and don't have people looking over their shoulder, and you get exercise.
It's a great job. Number 20. Do you believe that PSA pop controls certain cars like the Ricky Henderson rookie?
So I have a minute to answer because I'm doing really well. So I'm going to take a
Let's go,
second to
man.
answer. I'm going to take a second to answer this. I think that the iconic cards get a much closer look, and they don't want to give it a 10 unless it's 100% a 10. So I think it gets a way closer look. But do I think they go, oh, it's a Ricky? It's not getting a 10. We started a 9. No. So I don't think there's pop control, but I do think that they they look for anything they can to not give it the 10, if that makes sense. And
Congrats,
and
man.
I
I know
I
you're
I
competitive and really wanted it.
I, I am 3 for 7. I mean, I'm just like, this is like, I'm on top of the world right now.
I had more questions, so I should have probably just kept adding to the 20.
You had more?
I, probably ones that you don't want to answer, though.
Well, I mean, just we're in free time. If you want to give me a couple bonus questions, I'll say this, the only question I don't like answering is political. And that
Yeah.
comes from being a teacher. I never want my students to know who I'm voting for. I feel like that's like an abuse of power. So unless if it's not political, you can ask, honestly, you could, I think, ask me pretty much anything you want.
Well, I'm not going to ask you like which YouTube channels you don't like, because that'll
Yeah.
offend. No, I was going to ask you something that was more multi-part, but I took that out. So what's on your sports card Mount Rushmore?
Sports card Mount Rushmore.
Sports card Mount Rushmore.
Man, that's such a great question. Well, I mean, it has to be the 52 mantle. There has to be, probably two baseball cards. Uh, for me, the I mean, I think oh man, the 86 Jordan is changing in its importance for a lot of people because now people don't think it's the rookie. I still think the 52 mantle, the 86 Jordan, I think the Gretzky rookie, uh, preferably the O-Pee-Chee, would be three. I want to go with a football card because then it kind of rounds it out. To me, the football card is actually the Jim Brown rookie, but that seems like it's not at the same level as those other three cards. Uh, I I I think that I would go with the Jim Brown rookie as the fourth. But now I got to ask you, what are yours?
I wouldn't have Jim Brown, and even though I have that card and I love that card, I bought it from B Roth. I think Honus Wagner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you
Otherwise,
agree with the other three?
uh maybe. Yeah. Definitely the mantle, definitely the Jordan,
Yeah.
and then the Honus and the yeah, it's tough. This would have cost you the game though. You would be
Oh, I would have been ruined.
Yeah.
See, that's a question Mookie would have asked 4 different versions of.
Yeah.
Now, le so, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a really tough question, and
Were
there
there
isn't a right answer, and that's what makes those questions fun, is that there isn't a right answer, right?
were there any questions I asked that you wanted to say more on?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first, like, 3 or 4, I was, like, twitching. I was so, anxious. I'm trying to think of what some of them
The
were.
rabbit hole? The rabbit hole you considered, you said 90s?
That one would is hard for me. See, the thing about modern cards is I think they're beautiful, and I think that they're fun, and I totally get, like my buddy Adam, Splendid Sports, he's doing all those Pedro, like, refractors and numbered cards, and he'll show them, and I'm like, "Man, that is cool looking." Like, it is really cool looking card. But I keep going back to there's so many different rare ones that I have a hard time knowing, because part of it is I'm ignorant to modern stuff. I just don't know a lot about it. I don't. That it's like I feel like is it that it's rare, or is it that there's so many different rare things? If you're a Pedro guy and there's 80 cards that are out of 10, then what are the ones that I want? Like, so I struggle with that. But when I see that people show them, I do think they're cool. I'm not a person who thinks, "Oh, it's all junk," and, "Oh, I think it's cool. I just I just don't know. And part of it, I think, is a lot of us, and I think we're probably similar in age. uh, I think you're probably a little younger than I am, but there's so much scar tissue from the junk wax era,
Right.
from just the pallets of cards that were being printed and shipped, and that just like are literally. I mean, you could pull the best card out of the whole box, and it still is worth a dollar, maybe 50 cents. That you just assume, well, isn't this the same thing? And so I want to like it, but and I do like it. But then the other piece of it is a lot of what I like about cards is the story and the history of the card, and so it's like if it's a card from, the Goodwin Champion set, you're like, "Man, this thing was printed like my great grandpa, maybe great grandpa." Like, those pirate cards I like. Like Mookie was saying to me the other day, like, somebody who was in the Civil War could have pulled that out of a pack of tobacco. Like, that's
Crazy time.
crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've stood this test of time, so they're more likely to continue to stand the test of time, whereas 90s can probably get manipulated a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just hard to know. And then the other piece of me is I so lack focus that I have to draw the line somewhere, and I did just buy a modern card from 2016 like a couple of days ago. So it's
What
not
was
like
it?
I don't so I've mentioned before, I have a former student who's in the Tigers organization, and so I've been trying to collect as much of his rainbow of his rookie auto first Bowman refractor, like, rainbow. And the out of 5 just came up the other day.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm not really wanting to spend a lot of money in any card out of 5. Any of those, rookie autos out of 5 is like a pretty cool card, even if it's something you never heard of. And so I was just like, I'm not going to have a chance to get this again, so I'm just going to do it. And I bid high enough to get it. So it's not like I'm anti that stuff. It's just, I don't know. The list of stuff I want is so long. I mean, why? So let me turn this to you, because I know you collect a lot of modern, and like you were saying, I picked up a big Piazza card, and some of us would go, "Well, what would a big Piazza card be?" Like, that was my immediate response when you said, "Yeah, I want to pick up like one big Piazza card a year." So, what is a big Piazza card? Because it's not like his because I think of the Piazza rookie as it's that like Bowman rookie. That's the Mariano Rivera set, right? That's what I would think of as the big one. But what makes one a big one, and what is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of hierarchy, right, for the '90s, and you see PMGs up there. You see, um, you know, mere golds. I got a grand finale recently, which I love. Those are not numbered. I mean, there's basically, essential credentials. There are a few in there, and then obviously there are the one-on-ones, the masterpieces that are crazy. So, you talk to different '90s guys, and they'll have different hierarchy, but generally there's some sort of, view around what are the top echelon, top tier. Crusades are probably in there too. Rubies,
See, like of all the cards you just mentioned, I've heard of like two of those,
right?
and I know that
Yeah.
I know to a guy who collects '90s cards, they're like, are you serious? Like, but I could tell you a decent amount about, you know, cards from the 1930s or 20s, and it's just my lane is different, and so who knows where I'll go eventually. But there's so many things that I want in some of the other categories. But I will say, like, when I look at your pickups for the year and you're showing everything from a Ted Williams play ball rookie or a Hank Aaron rookie or Ernie Banks rookie or a T206 or all the way to some, at a five, 90s refractor card. It's like, I totally appreciate all of it. I do. But I'm just like, I'm going to stay in my lane for right now. But people ask me all the time, like you just asked me. One of your questions you asked was, "What's the type of video that you like the most?" Like one of my favorite videos to watch when they come out is after a big card show, watching Card Collector 2, Ryan, go and negotiate deals for these bulk deals that he does, and he's showing the cards, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a cool card." I'm not in the market to buy it, and I'm not gonna buy it anytime soon, at least. I don't even know anything about it, but I still think it's cool, and I still think it's interesting, and I like seeing that business transaction and the negotiation. Like that's really fascinating to me. But then, I also like when I've watched some of your stuff, like I really like seeing people's collections, and one of my weaknesses for my channel is I just assume that nobody is that interested in what I have. So I don't share my cards that often other than when I do like a card show maybe or like a big pickup. I just don't like go through my collection and show it. But then when other people do it, I like it. But I'm just like, well, why would anybody want to see what I've got? Like,
Maybe that's a
nobody wants.
sign you got to do it though. Will you commit to doing some kind of showcase of your collection?
I should, and I've, the other thing is I try not to be cliche. I try to kind of do something different than what other people are doing. And so like as much as I look forward to the end of the year because a lot of people do their like top 25 cards or top 50 or whatever they, people do, I've never done it because I'm like, I'm not getting on that bandwagon. I'm not going to do what everyone else is doing. But then I really look forward to when everyone else is doing it. So I guess I should. I don't know. It's just I'm one of these people who doesn't necessarily think other people are all that interested in what he's doing. So
Well,
I
maybe you
should.
can figure
Yes,
out
I
a,
will.
a wrinkle on it.
I'll commit to you right now that I will do a top, I don't know, 25, 50, one of those videos
Nice.
this year. I will do that because I do need to be better at that.
With how many
So,
pirate cards?
well, top 50, I probably would only have one or two pirate cards in my top 50. But yeah, the pirate cards, man, I don't know. If you see them in person, they get me. And then, I've mentioned this a couple times recently. A few months so here I go getting long-winded, but I already reached my success, and we're having fun talking. So let me tell this last story. But I about a year and a half ago, I was showing some cards, and I had an OJ Simpson card, an OJ Simpson rookie, and it was a pretty nice one. It was a 6 or 7, and somebody in the comments said, "I can't believe you'd have an OJ Simpson rookie." And no, I mean, we all get comments that aren't, glowing towards us. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. I mean, I get what you're saying. And on that particular comment that was negative, I felt like super convicted. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that person's right. Like, that doesn't feel good to me to have this OJ Simpson. And so I sold it. And then I talked about later how I sold it because I felt like kind of convicted about it. And then I I have had 2 or 3 people over the last year say, "I can't believe that you wouldn't have an OJ Simpson card, but you'd have pirate cards." And I'm like, "Yeah, I really enjoy these pirate cards though." And OJ's thing, I like lived through. It was like real. It
Right.
wasn't more like storytelling passed down of legends. Like we don't really know what some of these guys did. We just hear stories about them, and I like the ride and I like the movies, and so it feels less real. And the other piece of it is like I love historical artifacts. And these are like historical, like these cards, these pieces of paper. I mean, they went through they were 45 years old during the Great Depression when they were doing paper drives to recycle paper, and they survived through it. And and so they're like artifacts, and they're beautiful pieces of art. And I'm just like, I don't know. If I'm a hypocrite, I'm a hypocrite, but I like the pirate cards, and I'm not giving them up.
They're not my thing, but I think they're cool that you're into it. And I never saw OJ and pirate cards as like one and the same. I kind of
Yeah,
see them as different. Yeah.
yeah. All right, man. Well, I'm already going to get heat that my short-winded episode is at 37 minutes, but I will say, and I didn't even thank you for this. When I met you at the YouTube event, you walked up, and the very first thing you did is you said, "I have something for you," and you reached in your bag and you pulled out a Matt Manning card and gave it to me. So thank you for the gift. Anytime anybody gives me something where you traveled with something to bring for me, like the thoughtfulness in that is super cool. So I certainly appreciate that. And hey, I had a fun. You are on the list of people who helped me succeed in this game. And if you're out there and you're not a subscriber to Josh's channel, Rated Rookie, I genuinely highly recommend it. He's got a great channel. We just need to beat him up in the comments about posting more stuff.
Well, thanks, man. This was fun. Congrats on now being a higher batting average. Your Hall of Fame level now.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate it. And hey, everybody, leave a comment. Tell me how I did in my responses and where I went wrong. I'm sure there will be several. And Josh, thanks again for coming on.
Have a good one.